We are live on a Thursday night, everybody, and it's Shooting the Shit Uncensored. I am your host, the Dad Bod God, the Bald, the Beard, the fucking beautiful Piers Austin. And tonight we have a very special guest. We've got the Hoff in the house, not David Hasselhoff. We've got the one Adam fucking Hoffman. And I am excited to have the Hoff on. And we're going to bring him on in just a minute. But before we do, we got to thank some of those sponsors that help us keep the lights on up in this bitch every single week. First up is healthvape.com. Now listen, if you or someone you know is a filthy cigarette smoker or one of those people that walks around with vapes chucking up huge bloody clouds, you need to get them on healthvape.com. It is a healthy vaping alternative. All of their products are no nicotine, no addictive or harmful chemicals. They help restore your energy while giving you the vital boost you need to get through your day. So guys, go and check out healthvape.com. Use that promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. Next up is Sleefs.com. That's SLEEFS, Sleefs.com. Now listen, guys, for you and any athlete in your lives, this is your one-stop shop. Sleefs have got you covered. They've got armbands, compression pants, compression shorts, compression socks, headbands, boots, mouth guards. They've even got dirty boxes that you hear me raving about every single week. Guys, these dirty boxes are the most comfortable boxes that you will find. They stay fresh, they stay dry, and they have funky designs on the front that you can rock to impress that special person in your life. Guys, go check out Sleeps. Go check out those dirty boxes. Use that promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. Now, guys, while you're finding us here on the MWA Podcast Network, please make sure you hit subscribe, like, share, comment, all that good shit. It's important. It helps us grow. It helps us be able to do more things, do more shows, all that great stuff. You can also find us on all your podcast platforms, MWA Podcast Network. You've got this show, Shooting the Shit Uncensored. You've got Killing the Business, hosted by ECW Original, The Kingpin, Angel Medina, and King Mega. You've also got Knights of the Gimmick Table, hosted by the Dead Presidents, Boogaloo, Lowrider, and Cade Lothbrock. Guys, go and check out our shows. Subscribe, like, share. You will love it. But ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I can't even talk. I'm just twirling my words tonight. I don't know what is going on. But without further ado, let's get into my conversation with the Hoff, baby. Everybody in the audience, Miss Adam Hoffman in the house. Adam.
How you doing?
Mate, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on. How you going, my friend?
I am wonderful. How you doing?
I'm good. Mate, it's great to have you on. I've wanted to have you on for the longest time. It's great to finally get you on. Looking at your career, you've been, in the game for quite a while. You've also helped produce, some amazing performers that have come out of Newey Pro. For those who don't know where Newcastle is, it's probably 2 hours out of Sydney, give or take, maybe.
Hour and a half, 2 hours north.
Yeah, like it's probably a small community down there, and to have such a solid, company like Newey Pro down there, that you pretty much head up and have produced some amazing talent out of that gym, correct?
Well, that's it. Yeah, we were bringing in crowds that capital cities were getting in Newcastle, which is like a quarter of the size of the next capital city, and still getting in the talent that we get. It's amazing.
What, like, as a promoter, to get that response from the crowd, like, what has it been for you? Do you think has been the keys to your success to get that fan base?
Well, in Newey, people around Newcastle know that they will support anything Newcastle. So the fact that getting the word out was the hardest thing, and once the word got out, then the fans jumped on and really get behind it. Like I said, they love Newey.
Yeah.
Newcastle channel get going anywhere.
And do you think as well, like, because it, like, the smaller community as well, like friends of friends, and then, like, that word of mouth gets around saying, you've got to go and check out this Newey Pro Wrestling show. Like, and, were you getting people that weren't necessarily wrestling fans prior to coming and checking out Newey Pro shows?
100%. I used to hear it all the time. Is like parents would come up and talk to me and say they only came because their kids wanted to come, but they're coming back and bringing their mates, leaving the kids at home. So word of mouth is huge. Like they say, there's 6 degrees of separation. There's only 3 degrees in Newcastle. Everyone knows everyone.
But I think that also contributes, because I think as well, like, in a community like that, they see, like, pro wrestling as a performance of sport, or an art, whatever you want to call it, and it's like, okay, well, this is something that is put on by people from our area, from our community. Let's go and support this product and see what they're doing. And the performers that you have in Newey Pro are world class. Like, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest thing to get across to people is they think, oh, it's Newey based, it's Newey athletes. They just assume it's going to be like a local production. But then once they come and you see the talent that we have, you understand that it is world class. That's the hardest thing to get across. But once you're in the door, it's very easy to see.
Because one of the things I found really interesting is, because you guys have been around for a little while, and you guys have just started streaming, on IWTV. Caught the first show, thought it was absolutely great. What was it? The reason for waiting this long to go down that channel, was it making sure that you guys could do it to the highest possible standard that you have? What was the
we were
reason?
streaming on OVO. We were on the PWA channel because PWA is our sister company, so we run essentially side by side. Like I promote here, but my best mate's the promoter there, so
Yeah.
there was always going to be a crossover, and we use majority of the same talent. The only real difference is the schools and the students coming out of the schools. That's pretty much the only difference, and even that's starting to bleed over more now with Ben Braxton going down to PWA and Carter Deems, our heavyweight champs getting a good run down there. But we use their guys on our Who shows. Like it's all pretty much just one big company. And we were on OVO back when OVO was a thing.
And like, between the time from OVO and IWTV, was there a reason for a delay? Were you wanting to keep it more like for a live show perspective, or were you going?
I just want to get everyone back in the run of things before necessarily sending it out to the world. Is because we did have that essentially 2-year break with maybe a handful of shows in like during that time where everybody you just get into a rut, not really a rut, but a rhythm, and you lose that rhythm with time off. So you need a little bit of time to get that rhythm back. But the fact that the whole promotion was out of rhythm, I just wanted that time for everybody to get back, gel, start putting on world-class performances again before putting it out to the world.
Yeah, no, 100%. I completely understand that. Yourself, breaking in, you trained with TNT, correct?
yeah, I did. Started at AWF in 2004.
And when you you started training down there, did you go through one of Greg's training camps, or did you actually start going to the school permanently on a regular basis?
No, when I started, it was just one class, and we trained for 4 hours. We'd get there, I think at 10 in the morning, and we trained till 2. It wasn't until after that it grew a bit bigger and then got split into classes, and then there was dream camps and all that kind of stuff. But I think I'd left before the dream camps had started.
Yeah.
I think
How long were you training with TNT before you branched out?
I think I was there for maybe 3 or 4 years before I went overseas, and when I came back, I started doing PWA shows and SWA shows and IWA shows, and then pretty much stopped doing AWF around that time.
Yeah, sure. When you first started to break in, what was the biggest shocker for you breaking into the business? Like, was there anything that sort of took you by surprise?
That I wasn't the smallest person there, because I came from a rugby background, so I just thought, like, so I was an outside back. I was 85 kilos. I'm not real tall. And just in my head, watching WWE and watching TNA and all that, these guys are going to be monsters. And then when I walked in, because at that point, the level definitely wasn't what it is today, that I walked in and wasn't one of the smaller guys.
Yeah.
That was probably the biggest shock.
It's interesting because wrestling, over the years has kind of gone through waves of popularity. You know what I mean? Like the late 90s peak boom gets to about 2006, 2007. It's kind of like it's there. And then I think probably like maybe 2013, maybe 2014, 2015, it sort of starts to make another peak.
Yep.
What do you think has been like the biggest reason, for that? For pro wrestling to have those peaks, in your opinion?
I don't know. It could be a number of things. People aging out of it or aging into it. Wrestlers aging in and aging out. Who's willing to put money into it? There's a whole bunch of factors. Like, you got to think, if you watch it through your teen years and then you get to 19 and get a job, and then all of a sudden wrestling's not real important, you might fall out of it. So generational, if a whole group of people who watch certain wrestling stop watching wrestling, then they're not going to go to wrestling shows. But at the same time, you'll have the young kids coming through, but young kids don't necessarily have money to go to shows. So you'll see that.
What,
crazy idea.
Oh, no, I completely understand. But like for you, when you're coming through, this sort of time and period, what was your, main goal, getting into the business? Did you sit there and go, you know what, like I want to get on one show, or I want to get on 2 shows, I want to get booked into state? Like, did you have yourself a list or a plan of goals that you wanted to achieve, when you first started training?
When I started, I didn't know there was Australian wrestling. It was actually a mate of mine in school who came to school and said, there's a wrestling school, there's a wrestling company in Sydney. So I had no idea. There was no wrestling in Newcastle. There was no advertising. There was, like, I'm going to show my age here, but the internet wasn't as predominant as it is now. So I just didn't know about it. So going into it, I just wanted to be a wrestler. If that was achievable, then. So having a match in front of people was definitely the goal.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I actually got into it that I realized that there was interstate promotions. There was opportunities to go overseas. So as I got better, then obviously the goals keep changing. They keep progressing. You hit those points, you move on to the next one. So yeah, at the start, just to be a wrestler.
And as far as like, once you sort of broke in, started training, and even at this point now, can you sit down and watch wrestling and enjoy it, from a fan perspective? Like, do you still have that inner fan in you when you sit and watch wrestling, or do you sit down and just like, okay, that was cool what they did there, that looked a bit off what they did there? Like, can you turn that part off of the brain?
A little bit. Like, if it's done, if it's good wrestling, it's good wrestling. It's entertaining. I can sit there and just enjoy it. When it's bad, if it's really bad, that also can be enjoyable. But when it's that, I don't like the sterilized wrestling. like the very over-scripted, not natural. Like obviously wrestling's ridiculous in its premise of what it is, but you got to be able to suspend that disbelief. And when you so just comes across as fake and scripted and not natural or real, you're not suspending that disbelief, so it's hard to get into it.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that's the thing for me personally when I sit down and I watch wrestling is when I see something that's so completely far fetched, where it's like, come on, man, like like even kids aren't going to be buying that. That's a shoot. You know what I mean? Like that's where I sort of go. I get turned off it. But and it's funny because like I've spoken to some people and they say, oh well, intergender wrestling isn't realistic, and I'm like, well. And I made this comment to Lena Cross when we had her on. It's like, well, anyone who's done jiu-jitsu, I have, and I rolled against a woman who was half my size, and she would tap me out in seconds, and I outweighed her. I could outstrength her, everything. But skill and technique and a level of an athlete which is above someone else will always be able to outshine. I think that intergender wrestling, when it's done correctly, it can be fantastic.
100%. Wrestlers are wrestlers. That's as far as I'm concerned. He's like, there is no women's wrestlers. There's wrestlers. Like, if you're going to use that mentality, Paris De Silva shouldn't be in the ring with anyone over 80 kilos. Because that same mentality, like, how's he supposed to fight fucking Jack Bonza or Mick Moretti or fucking Matt Rogers? That same thing is like, that's not believable. I bet you no one's gone, oh, I don't want to watch that match.
No, not at all. But like
exactly.
like I said, when I say make it believable, it can be done like in certain ways of how they tell the story as well. And
exactly.
Like size doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? Like I've never believed like, you know what I mean? Like if you looked at that, Rey Mysterio would never have been past a mid carder at best if that was the case.
That's right. He's a fucking world champion.
Yeah. You know, but
wrestling
that's
is just characters. It's good guys, bad guys. Some of those characters are men, some of those are women. Doesn't fucking matter. It's all about the story. That annoys me heaps. Like with the whole like intergender's not believable, especially because I'm in an intergender tag team.
Yeah,
and she like Rita hits harder than fucking most of the boys. Like, I've wrestled some stiff guys, and she hits like a fucking hammer. So,
and that's the thing, because I think people think like, oh women can't fight a man, or women are weaker than men. Like it's a pretty shitty fucking way to sort of like sum it up, really. And it's, to be honest, how women are perceived in pro wrestling now and how in most sports now is empowering for another generation of younger, women coming through, like younger girls. As a father of a daughter, I think it's great that, she looks at, pro wrestlers and sees women in pro wrestling, because she gets into it. She's like, wow, girls can do this. You know what I mean? Like she gets excited for that. So to me, that's like, of course,
I have two nieces that come to the Hoos regularly, though, here tonight. And one of them is really getting into wrestling. Like she's running around wrestling her sister, throwing super kicks, putting arm bars on. She got a promo ready to go on Carter Deems. She was telling me about. So
how old is she?
She's going to challenge him for the belt.
How old?
She's 9.
Yeah, good age. I actually took my son, my eldest son, who's 6, to a show not too long ago that I was doing commentary on. And like I was skeptical how he would take it, because he's never really gotten into wrestling, but like that live show hooked him. And the whole car ride home, he's like, I can't believe that you know these wrestlers, Dad. This is so cool. Like we get to do this, blah, blah, blah. Like, and like he was at the venue before the show and was seeing like stuff being put together and stuff like that. And he's like, what's this? And I said, oh no, this is like the thing. Like when the bell rings, that's when they fight. Oh, okay. I said, yeah, this is a time where everyone's at peace. They're not allowed to fight. And he's like, and he went, okay. And he was like, enjoyed it and bought right into it. You know what I mean?
Well, that's it. That's what you want. that's another thing. Like with storytelling, is not everybody's. Sometimes it's competitive. Some people get that. Like not once the bell rings, that's when it's go time. Like you should be able to. Like kayfabe's pretty much dead these days anyway. So
do you think it's dead or it's evolved to something different? Because like you see a lot of what wrestling fans say in forums and all this shit and stuff like that. In reality, as fans, we don't know shit what's happening behind closed doors. Dirt sheets and stuff like that is just like rumor at best. But fans who actually think what's going on or have any clue or think they have any clue, really don't. Because if you're not involved, you don't know what's going on.
yeah, but I think the people who do know on the internet sometimes, like there's a lot. It's hard to say. Like you hear rumors so much, and then to watch them come true, you're like, did someone tell someone, and then they've put it on the internet, and then it's come out. Like Meltzer, like obviously he's got some inside things. He's always breaking little stories before they happen, and there's always a little layer of truth in there somewhere. Obviously, like fans are going to get on and speculate. That's just fun, and give their own little fan theories on what's going to happen. But I think to the point, like it's very hard to keep things kayfabed, and mainly for the bigger companies. For us, it's a little easier because obviously we're not as well known or not really follows us as much as what they do, like the E and AEW and stuff. But like, for example, like when Cody was on WrestleMania, like I heard about that shit 2 or
6
so months before it, and I don't even like look up the dirt sheets. I just heard that from people talking about this is what the story is. I was like, oh, that'd be cool. Kind of forgot about it, and then watched Mania. And, oh, that's fucking sick.
But do you think, like, as like fans, and I don't mean just wrestling fans, but people in general, right? Because like they want to be, I don't know, like they don't want to be like shocked or surprised. It's like, why would you like? To me, I love the fact of wrestling when I sit there and go, "Oh, you motherfucker, you fucking worked me." You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like that's the shit that I really fucking enjoy. And it's like I don't understand like the whole thing. Like when Cody Day came out at WrestleMania, it's like, oh, cool, that was a cool entrance, but we just were waiting for it to happen.
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you. I want to be surprised. Like my favorite event is the Royal Rumble because I don't want to know who the surprise entrants are. I don't want to know who's returning because usually the Rumbles are a good spot to have old faces come back in or debut new people or have like a little throwback. And for me, that was like the most exciting thing is not knowing what's going to happen and then reacting to who does show their face. And like if I was watching Mania and hadn't heard that Cody Rhodes was on there, then that would have been a fucking heaps bigger reaction. But I think WWE put like to shoot themselves in the foot a bit with like themselves doing that. Like I still remember like the moment that like it died for me and I pretty much not stopped watching, but stopped watching it as week to week was it was a Mania, I can't remember which one. And then they advertised that Jeff Hardy was going to be on Raw the next night. I think it was his return after being out of it for 6 or 7 years. And I was like, if I was watching Raw the next day and fucking Jeff Hardy came out, I would have lost my shit.
Yeah.
But the fact that they advertised it and said, watch Raw because Jeff Hardy's going to be on there, I was like, oh, you killed it. There's no. They used to say anything could happen in WWE. It was like, no, anything will happen. They'll tell you about it before it.
But do you think that that's like, doing that, they're expecting they're going to get more views by doing that though?
Like, oh yeah, 100%. Like as a promoter, like you want to put butts in seats and eyes on the product, and I understood that. But I was like, as a fan, I was like, I didn't watch because I was like, I don't care now. You've taken the buzz for me.
Yeah.
So other than that, it's just boring.
It's almost like for me. I remember like I think the last time where a wrestling company really did it, and I think it was probably about 10 years ago when in TNA it was a thing, and Devon left TNA, went to or not left TNA, but in all the dirt sheets saying, oh, his contract expired. I think he actually still had a championship there. and all the rumors are saying, oh, he's going to WWE as a producer and all this sort of shit. And then next pay-per-view, bang, he unveils himself as a member of this new heel stable, and it's like, holy shit, and the place erupted. Everyone went fucking crazy. And I think that's probably the last time I've ever seen in mainstream wrestling, that big of a surprise.
Yeah, it sounds like they're using the internet to their advantage, which is how it should be. Like the fans should never have the right information. And the fact that they put it out there, and I can guarantee you that would have been their PR department going, yep, let's just say his contract's expired. Even if it had expired, yep, let's just make everyone aware that it's expired. Put the little fucking rumors out that he's going back. Like, throw all this shit out on the wall, see what sticks. Just divert attention from here. It's like, it's the whole, like, look at the bunny while the fucking magic trick's happening over here. That's how it should be.
100%, because it's like you're then working your audience, which that is exactly what it is, right? You know what I mean? Like, that's what it should be. You have to get your audience hooked and give them a surprise and make sure you grab their attention, and that's exactly the way it's done, right?
Yeah, it's almost like people watch wrestling now so they can say, I told you so.
Yeah. It's almost like sitting on it just to hate on it, and it's just like, why, bro? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's certain things I don't like in wrestling, but I just don't talk about them. You know what I mean? Like,
well, that's the good thing about wrestling. There's enough in there. You can like most of it and not like one thing, but there's still so much to like.
Yeah, 100%. It's like a wrestling buffet. You know what I mean? I've said that 100 times as well. It's like there's a little bit of everything there for different types of people. You might like high flying, heavyweight, hardcore, lucha, whatever style of wrestling you want, technical chain. And if you have these different matches on the card, you're going to appeal to a much broader audience.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to before with all the sterilized cookie cutter kind of matches. It was like, no one mat wrestles anymore, and I like mat wrestling. So,
do you think
you have to watch fucking Zack Sabre Jr. to fucking get some good mat wrestling?
Do you think fans say, I don't want to say like not like hardcore fans, but maybe like just not so regular fans can't get into technical wrestling or mat wrestling?
Yeah, probably a little bit. It's less, obviously, it's harder to advertise mat wrestling than it is to like put a shooting star press in your highlight reel. Like, no one's going to be real impressed by your armbar when someone's doing flips off the rope.
Yeah.
But mat wrestling's a part of the story. There should be more of it. But I think it's that everybody wants to be the highlight guy, the one that goes viral. And you're not going to get that, like I said, doing arm bars.
But in the same sense, not everyone can do the sort of like, high flying, double flip off the top rope sort of stuff. So I definitely I enjoy mat wrestling. I enjoy technical wrestling and chain wrestling very much. Again, I think it comes down to the buffet of professional wrestling of what people like. I think common fans, it's the same of anyone who sat down and would watch like a jiu-jitsu tournament or a grappling tournament. If you're not into grappling or jiu-jitsu, you're probably not going to get it. But if you understand grappling and you understand, technique and what's happening in front of you, you're going to sit there and go, holy shit, this is, appreciate it. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, the more styles you put in, the more people you're going to, draw in, the more bases you'll cover. So the more chances you are going to get repeat fans. And that's what you want. Try and turn everyone into a fan. Because everyone loves wrestling, they just don't know that.
Exactly. I completely agree. Yeah, that's a good analogy. I like that. I'm going to tell my wife that. She just doesn't know she likes it. But, as far as training people go, like everyone, I think asks a lot of trainers is like, who were the best, stars or highlights of people that you've trained? But what I want to know is like, who were some of the guys that are like shining now that maybe when they first started, maybe struggled in certain areas, you know what I mean? Like, because I think that's more of a positive story to tell, because it's like, I think everyone can understand struggling at some point of trying something new and then eventually like persistence out of getting it better. But have you ever had someone, training who's like come in, struggled to understand or wrap their head around the basics, but then gone on to do amazing things.
Yeah, Carter Deems, hot trash. Absolute dumpster fire. No, actually, I don't think I've told him this, but on his tryout, I think I looked over at one of the boys and said, "That's a future champion right there." Yeah. But yeah, like off the top of my head, I would say Daz and Rig went further than I thought they might have, because they were like an elastic band. Like, we kept plugging along, and then just one day it just fucking clicked and was like, oh, these guys are going to be fucking superstars.
Yeah.
Like, they were physically more than able, but it just, the character side and the showman side just wasn't coming out. And then it legit just like a fucking, someone flicked the light switch and they both just exploded and obviously became who they are now, which are two of the biggest, or probably the biggest draws in Newcastle.
Yeah, and two, big names in the Australian wrestling scene as a whole as well.
Absolutely.
Do you think the performance aspect of it, and the promo and the character and the selling of it is hard for most people to get into? Like, is that the hardest thing for most?
It's the hardest thing. Is either you can naturally perform, like some people can take a liking to it and get used to it and get comfortable, but to be like a proper performer, that it kind of has to be a natural thing. So we get a lot of guys come through as super athletes, but then you put a mic in front of them, put a camera on, and they turn into deer in headlight.
It's hard, man. It's hard. Talking,
oh, it is 100%.
In front of people is one of the hardest things to do,
Yep. And then being able to, like, not just speak, but then speak in a way that connects with people is also a fucking skill in itself. And that's why it's so rare, like, to find those people who do it. There's like Moretti. Like, Moretti was super athlete, good, like, great look, had a good gimmick, could do a promo, but it wasn't until he turned into the rapscallion that he, like, really connected and resonated with people, and the performer actually came out because he wasn't trying to be a character. He just went, I'll just be my own goofy self. And then the more natural you are in your own character, the more of yourself is in your character, then obviously the more it becomes natural, and the more people can see that, the more they connect. So yes, trying to get people to perform is fucking very hard. We have like a little tradition here at the Hoos that if you don't have a gimmick, once you get to the point where you start doing training matches, I'll give you a few weeks to come up with a gimmick. And if you don't have a gimmick, I'll give you the shittest gimmick I can think of. And then you have to work all your matches in that gimmick until you think of a better one. Or at least until you get comfortable performing, doing a shit gimmick. Then you start thinking about how I can actually break away from being a fucking chef.
Yeah. What's the shittest gimmick you've come up for someone?
Jemima. She was always sick.
And who did Jemima end up turning out to be?
Rita Stone.
Really? There you go.
It was Jemima perfect because she did all that leading up to she was about to debut, and then COVID hit. I was like, oh, now your gimmick actually works.
Perfect time for the gimmick, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. It's relevant now.
Exactly. It probably would have, gotten over huge. But as far as gimmicks, like, do you ever like have to sit there and people come to you with a gimmick and you just go, nah, mate, that's not going to happen. You're not going to do
almost daily.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you?
Like, I tell people this, like, if you've,
because
because most people are fans, they sit there on the video games, they make themselves, they have their little look, they have their character idea, and in their head, like, this will work. And then it's heartbreaking to sit there and go, that won't work, and then list off reasons why. So before that, I'd just say, whatever gimmick you've got in your head, forget about it. Don't worry about it. Because I had an idea on what I wanted to be too when I came in. But I didn't try and push any of it because I didn't want to do it bad and then end up hating my own gimmick.
Right.
So I just did what I was told, did the best with what I could, and then just slowly evolved and then started doing my own things as I went on. But it would have been heartbreaking if I came in and said, I want to do this, and then it doesn't get over. I end up like not liking it. I would have just done myself a disservice. So yeah, I just say, if you've got a character idea, unless you can get in the ring and show it to me, put it in your pocket.
Yeah. What was your idea of a character when you were coming in?
I don't know if I want to say. It's a bit of a don't
want
want
to
to
kill kayfabe. You want to keep it in the back pocket just in case something comes up?
No, I've done it, but you wouldn't know it was me.
Was it one of the members of One Direction?
I'm not saying. Kayfabe's alive here.
There you go, brother. I love that shit. The story, Kyle in the house saying the storyline having Rita join Blue Nations was amazing.
Oh, good. I'm glad you liked it. Glad you liked it.
But, speaking of the nations, I've pretty much had on almost every member, except a couple. Now, one of the things I wanted to ask is, how did the nations come to be? How did that statement from?
Essentially, we were all at PWA and we were all floating around doing nothing. So it started with Tama Williams asked if we could be teamed together. And they just said, yep, well, we've got nothing for you, so we may as well chuck you in some tag matches and actually make something out of it. So me and Tama started to tag. And then the idea of forming another group came up. And then me, Tama, and then Bonza and Shazza, again, we're all floating around essentially doing nothing. We're thrown up. So essentially we were the leftovers put together, but then end up, making something of it, I guess.
Yeah. But how did the colors come to be? Like, was it because you had blue gear, like Bonza had red gear, and like Madison had green gear? Is that how it originally sort of like happened, or was it like thought out?
No. Oh, at the time, I think I was wearing red and blue gear. I had a Knights jersey based gear. Well, actually, no, I might have been wearing all white at the point. Yeah, and Bonza hates red. It came apart like around me and Bonza were drunk and talking about Power Rangers and Green Lanterns and shit, and we just thought of a way, because the whole idea is we're supposed to be a team of 4 separate people. Like, we're not one big team. We're 4 people with a similar goal, with the same goal. Yep. And that's what brings us together. So we wanted to be clearly individual, but the same. So the idea of having similar gear, but then having that one different thing. So then the color was the easiest way to get that over.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Robbo Entertainment's laughing about the Power Rangers comment. That's incredible. So I had a little bit of a pop to that myself.
Well, we took the piss out of it a few years later. We wore Power Ranger gear at one of the Halliversary shows in Newey.
But for you, like, what was opening Newey Pro Wrestling? What was your goals opening your own promotion?
At the time, we just wanted to, we knew there was a fan base in Newcastle, but the quality of wrestling wasn't up to standard. And I tried my best to try and get that standard up, but then my efforts were just kind of thrown back in my face. So a big group of us kind of got together and said, well, let's look into what it would actually take to start doing our own thing. And then after looking into it and realized that it's actually doable, I started putting in the footwork and got things moving, and next thing you know, we've got a date booked. We've got a ring coming. Tickets are on sale. We're going for it. See what happens.
And how did the first show go?
I think it drew like maybe 90.
Not bad for the first show in Newcastle.
Yeah, it was in a small hall too. So the hall, and I think the most we ever had in there was 180, but that was like fucking sardines.
Yeah.
So it was a good atmosphere. Like, it's one of my biggest pet peeves is like just technical issues. It's like, fucking check everything, go over it, test it, make sure there's no fuck ups. And then the very first entrant was Timer Williams, and they fucked his music up. Still remember it to this day. It gives me nightmares. It was funny though. He came out to Love Roller Coaster.
Oh, that's perfect.
Big scary Timer Williams comes out to Love Roller Coaster.
I mean, was that the only issue that happened on the card?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything else went smooth after that.
But, you know, like, as far as, like, after the first show, were you, like, hooked and going, like, that's it, I want to be a wrestling promoter, this is amazing?
Absolutely not.
No.
I kind of, like I said, there was a group of us, but because I was the only one in Newcastle, it was like I was getting help for, like, some of the stuff, but a lot of it was like, I'm out putting posters up, I'm doing all the legwork, I'm talking to venues, I'm looking after the ring, doing all the legwork, because most of the boys lived in Sydney or the Central Coast. So at first I was like, oh, it's a lot of fucking work. But as each show, we drew more people, we kept drawing more people. Then it's like, oh, we're actually like getting some momentum. And then it became a little bit more exciting. And I didn't mind doing the posters so much, and like dealing with it, all the backstage stuff. That became like less of an issue when we actually started to get bigger crowds. And then we got so big that we had to move venues, and then we moved to that venue, and then we started selling that venue out. And then we get to the point where we found a bigger venue, and then COVID hits. And now, yeah, back a little bit. So back to the frustrating part, but
yeah,
not giving up yet.
Oh, dude, 100%. And, you know, for yourself, like, what was the goal? Like, you know, starting the promotion, were you also wanting to start a training school as well? Like, you know, starting the Newcastle Newey Pro Wrestling Hoose, you know, was that something that you wanted to plan out as well as starting a promotion, is having a training academy in Newcastle?
I'd already been training people for 2 years at that point.
Oh, really? Okay. So Newey Pro was existing before it was a promotion, essentially.
Well, the Hoose technically was, ish. It was, long story short, it was Jason Helton's school.
Yeah.
And then I was just helping him. And then slowly, but actually it was very quickly, he started taking back steps. And then next thing you know, I'm taking over the classes. And then he just stopped coming. So then it was my classes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Jason Helton, that's a name I haven't heard. Canadian guy, right?
Yep. Canadian Hellraiser.
Canadian Hellraiser. Yeah. I remember seeing him in the early 2000s at IWA shows.
Yeah. He's a wealth of knowledge. Like, he's fucking super knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Just a nut bar.
How did you get involved with training with him?
I was wrestling for a promotion called SWA. It doesn't exist anymore. Funny story there. They were wrestling in Newcastle, probably less than a kilometer from my house, and had no idea they were there.
Really?
Yeah. It was my mate Carlo Cannon, like, rang me and said, you should come wrestle for this mob. And I was like, what mob? Like, he's like, oh, there's a SWA, they're at Hamilton. And I'm like, I live at fucking Adamstown, which is like I said, less than a kilometer away. I could walk to the venue.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I'll talk to the promoter and see what he says. And then next thing you know, I'm on the next show. And then Helton worked there. So that's how I met Helton, and that's where the school started, and that's how I took over that. And I always joked about it, because it was his school, but I'd call it Casa de Lucha Libre, which is home of free fighting or House of Free Fighting.
Yeah.
But then House of Free Fighting is also Hoff.
I like it. I like it.
That was just
I
a
like
big
it.
joke. My favorite
That's
people.
a-
Sorry.
I thought you were being serious. I was like, that's how the name became House of Free Fighting Hoff, and I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then
No,
you're
it
like,
is. I was in Mexico and they had a place called Casa de Lucha Libre, which,
Yeah.
which meant home of free fighting.
Yeah.
And I was like, Hoff, hilarious. So I just started calling it the Casa de Lucha Libre. And then when I actually yep, there you go, Cam Smith. He was in my first class.
Yeah. Jesus. What do you think that has been like the evolvement of Australian wrestling? Because like from years ago to now, like there's definitely been a massive evolvement of like production value, athleticism, the athletes involved in it. What do you think has been the biggest catalyst for that change over the years?
The professionalism,
Yeah.
the actual caring about it and doing it properly and steering away from the carny just trying to get quick bucks. Like I said, when I started training, when I said I wasn't the big, like I thought I was going to be the smallest guy, it was because like there wasn't that emphasis on bodies back then. There wasn't that emphasis on gear. There wasn't that emphasis on production, like creating atmospheres, telling good stories. But as like I was there, and then Bonza started shortly after, Moretti started shortly after. All these guys started to roll in who had the same mentality I had of like be in shape, look after yourself, have gear.
Look
like,
the part of the pro wrestler.
You got to look the part. If you look the part, then people will look at you and go, oh yeah, you are a wrestler. Not to like back then there was like a lot of fucking trash bag pants and elbow pads that were too big and
high spots.
And people who can't bench press their own body weight. It's like there wasn't that, quality, that level that it should have been at. But over the years, like I said, with that influx of guys, and then people see those guys come through, then they go, oh, I've got to lift my shit. So it's like a chain reaction.
Yeah.
That goes through, and then that just kept rolling.
You mentioned carnies in wrestling, and in Australia, like in like let's say Australian wrestling, is there still carnies in like the Aussie wrestling scene, or have they sort of been weaned out?
No, there's plenty of them. Plenty of them. I'm not going to throw any.
No. I'm not asking for names.
You don't have to look too hard to find them.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think that's the thing. Like, pro wrestling, I think it has been known for years for, to have carnies throughout it. I think it's like they're probably more undercover now than anything else, right?
Yeah, there's definitely less. Like, it was the driving force back in the day, and like you said, they've been weeded out, most of them, but some of them have had their foothold in, so they're not going anywhere for a while, but eventually, hopefully, we can get rid of the majority of them so it doesn't keep bringing wrestling down.
When did that really start of like the carnies being sort of slowly weeded out, do you think?
I would say around directly where I noticed was around 2009, 2010, where it was like, this is bullshit. This isn't how shit should be run. But yeah, probably around then. A lot of them had died out before then.
Yeah.
But they all got, like, I didn't have direct contact with most of them, but you could see it from the outside looking in as they were starting to fold. You can go, you can see what's happened here, and then the stories start to come out, and you're like, okay, all right, to see what's happening here.
Yeah,
and I think we're getting a bit too cryptic, but carnies are just people who quick buck trying to rip people off.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think that's probably that time you said around that 2009, 2010 where there's a lot of people that, want to take this professionally and to the next level, right? So it's I had to hit the mute button for the sneeze, but I think that was the key point in changing here in the Australian scene, by the sounds of things.
Yeah, like I said, enough of us came together and all brought different skills to the game that could take it to that next level. So you can see, obviously, from 2010 to now, you can see the footprint has fucking grown.
And you see the standard in pro wrestling has grown. You can see like how much it's evolved to like now, like there's probably, a lot more international eyes on Australian wrestling than ever before.
Well, that's it. Well, I just put it down to the leaders back then versus the leaders now. Like, obviously, it would have been harder back then, but there was still a lot of hard work that could have been done back then that wasn't getting done. That
100%.
A handful of us put the hard yards in, and now we're doing good.
There we go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for 60 Seconds with Pierce. Everyone tuning in for the first time, how this works is I'm going to fire a bunch of questions at the Hoff. He's got 60 seconds to answer as many questions as I can fire at him. They're just random questions. I've got them all here. Hoff, when you're ready, you let me know and I'll start the clock.
Right, let's go.
All right. Name a gross meal combination that you love that no one else does.
Kangaroo and anything.
Which Chris is hotter, Hemsworth, Evans, or Pratt?
Hemsworth.
There you go. Worst job you ever had?
I was a package handler at a packaging place. It was horrible.
Shittest gift you have ever given someone?
I've ever given someone? Oh, yeah. Fuck. Nothing.
If you could make any change, regardless of big or small, in wrestling history, what would it be?
Oh, shit. I would change Val Venus not getting essentially cancelled in the 90s to see where that would have played out.
Yeah, absolutely. If you had to describe yourself in 3 words, what would they be?
Short, angry, fun.
Okay, which famous actor would play you in a movie about your life?
Owen Wilson.
Okay, last one. In 5 minutes, you are being taken to outer space. What 2 personal belongings do you take with you, excluding human beings?
I take... Ooh. Fuck, that's a good one. Take my phone and a charger.
There you go. That's a phone and a charger. That's the friend that can keep on giving. You'll be entertained for hours and keep going.
That's it.
But that has been 60 Seconds with Pierce. Hoff, thank you so much for being a guest on Shooting the Shit Uncensored. It's great to have you on. Where can everyone follow you on social media and get some Blue Nation merch and some Hoff merch?
All right. I'm on Insta at Adam Hoffman44. I'm on Facebook, Adam Hoffman. I don't have Twitter. And I think you can get my merch at Wrestler Merch or at live events.
There you go, guys. Make sure to go and follow the Hoff. Also, guys, huge shout out to our sponsors, healthvape.com and sleeps.com, for sponsoring another episode of Shooting the Shit Uncensored. Make sure you go and check them out. Use that promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount at your final purchase. Guys, again, make sure you hit that subscribe, like, share, comment, all that good stuff, please. And also, if you're listening on a podcast platform, please give us a 5-star review. We appreciate it. Huge thank you, Adam, for being a guest tonight. It's great to have you on, and thank you for giving up a bit of your time on a Thursday night to shoot the shit with myself.
That's all right. It was fun. Good fun.
No worries. Well, guys, until next time, we'll see you again very soon. Take care. All the best. Peace.